Good evening, everybody. Yes, Paul Griffiths here with Photography Live and Uncut again. I hope you've had a great week. This week, my guest is a very local guest. She lives literally about 5 miles away from me, actually. It's Caroline Fraser. Caroline, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Paul. It's really a great honour to be on your show, especially being so close but so far. I think we're probably talking via satellite from 5 miles up the road. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange. It's really strange, isn't it? Really strange. If I just explain to the viewers that are watching, Carol and I first met when we joined the same camera club at Beckenham Photographic Society. And Caroline's work was something which really caught my eye. I did, in actual fact, ask her when I first started doing the show if she'd come on, but work didn't allow her to at the moment, and she was doing a fair bit of traveling. So we put it on ice, so to speak, and I finally got an email from her saying, I'm ready to come on your show. Tell me when. And it was great that we could get something organised. So thanks, Caroline, for giving me the note up on that. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
So let's start right at the beginning. Photography for you. When actually did it all get started?
Well, I was always a little bit interested in photography from my childhood, teenage years. Was sort of was one of those people that had a camera and liked to use it but didn't know much about it, but enjoyed going into a dark room once or twice with my mum when she was working at university, and was taken into her dark rooms, and things like that just would fill me with excitement, but nothing really came of it for many years.
So your mum was into photography herself, was she? Or
she was encouraging me, and found someone to show me, who helped me develop some prints that I took from my just an old normal analog camera.
Yeah.
Back in the days when film was all you used.
bit of elbow grease in the darkroom.
Yeah, I found that very exciting. Yeah.
What was the first recollection of a camera that you remember using?
Yeah, I had a box Brownie. And I remember taking pictures of my brother and my sister playing on the swing and in the sandpit.
That's amazing.
I've still got those photos.
Have you really? Because I remember playing with my granddad's box Brownie, but I just didn't have a clue what it was all about. I couldn't understand that fuzzy little square on the top. And yeah. I thought, what's all this about? But yeah, photography for me didn't start till the late teens, of that sort of nature. So what was the first camera that you bought then?
My first proper camera was the Fujica ST705, I think, which my son still has and uses, and it's just a lovely camera.
Yeah, and quite a number of my guests have started off with a Yashica or a Fujica. It's quite amazing. Whereas nowadays everyone's saying, "What's Nikon, Canon? Why didn't they start off with those?" But I suppose really to a degree they were quite expensive cameras in those days, weren't they? Those they still are, but there we go. That's another thing. So from your Fujica, this is, what sort of age is this where you've got this sort of?
I would have been in my teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you photographing at school and stuff like that? Were you involved with their magazine and that sort of thing?
No, not at school. Just out when I was out on my holidays and things. My uncle was a keen photographer, and I used to go walking with him, and we would take pictures together. He was quite enthusiastic and
yeah. Now, I know that you went on to study for a doctorate. Were you allowed, did you have time to carry on with your photography through university?
When I was at university, I had a boyfriend who liked photography. So that was nice, because we used to go down into the darkroom together, and that was...
Stop there. No more detail. This is a family show.
Nothing very exciting happened, but we had a good time.
Shall I just say things developed in more ways than one? We
developed photographs. I think we.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Then really after that, I didn't do very much with my photography for quite a long time.
Yeah. So obviously this has happened because I spoke to Tuan a few weeks ago, and he did exactly the same. He studied up in Liverpool. And he said his photography just went into it just disappeared for about 3-4 years, while obviously he studied on his work, in his surgery. I suppose just the same sort of thing for yourself.
Yeah, I think I've always just taken pictures on holiday and
yeah.
the kids, just, you know, regular.
So,
photography.
so when did this change for you then? When did photography sort of, dare I use the term, took a hold on you, took a grip of your interest?
Took my life over 100%. It all happened about, well, 12 years ago. I went hiking on the West Highland Way with my brother.
Yeah.
And we walked past a place called Inversnaid Photography Centre. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was a place where people go for workshops. And it's a beautiful Victorian house set on the shores of Loch Lomond. And as we stayed next to it, and I said to my brother, oh, I'd really like to go there and do a photography workshop. And as you know in life, you often say you're going to do something, but you don't really get on with it. And nothing happened for a few years. And then I got breast cancer 11 years ago, and had 6 months off work, having quite extensive treatment with surgery and chemo and radiotherapy, all of that. So that was a tipping point in my life, really. And it was at that point that I suddenly realized that, what am I waiting for?
Yeah. I
don't know how much time I've got. I need to make the best of what I've got. And the first thing that I did when I finished my treatment was to go to Inversnaid with my son on a photography workshop called Art in Nature.
Yeah.
And we worked in the darkroom, we developed, we took pictures, went out into the field, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that my life changed, really. I came back and joined a photography club in Beckenham. And I haven't looked back. I've been completely obsessed ever since. And it's been a way of expressing my feelings about what happened. Way of finding a sort of calmness. And
now it's interesting because I didn't know any of that background at all, and thank you for sharing that part of your life there. But that now explains to me, when we go to screen share, the style of your photography. And now for me, the penny has dropped as regards to your style, because I find when you look at someone's photography, you can look at the beautiful landscapes and look at the great street photography, and you accept it. There's a story there, but sometimes you look at some work and you go, where has that person got that idea from? And I think this is the thing which I found with your photography right from the word go. When I first saw an image shown at I think it was at the exhibition evening when I first went along to Beckenham itself, and it was an image which came up on the board, and I just, whoa, hold on a minute, there's something really, really special here. But the thing is, now the penny has dropped, because I now know your feelings and how you're showing your photography and where you stand in your life cycle, which is it's an important thing to have, to be quite honest with you. We'll go to screen share soon to look at your work, and as I say, I now understand why you have got that distinctive style, because in club photography, and I'd like to hear your comments on that, there are very, very few that come up with an artistry to their work. And I think that's the problem sometimes that I find with clubs and the judges. They don't accept that side of the work, which, you know, 2 or 3 of those photographers at Beckenham, Paulina and I've forgotten her name now. Roberts. What's it? Kathy Roberts. That sort of work that comes together, and you think, wow, you know, that this is something different. How do you find being a member of a camera club?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined Beckenham in I don't know, when I came back from Inversnaid, so that must be about 9 years ago, I didn't really know very much about photography, about Photoshop, about how to develop an image, how to present an image. So I learned so much from the people there, and I'm always have an incredible feeling of gratefulness to them for what they taught me, because I was coming from nowhere, really, and wanting to learn, and they were giving sort of special sessions on how to develop your images and photo manipulation and all the rest of it. And I'm very grateful to the club for all that they taught me. But sad at the same time that sometimes club photography is channeled by the sort of desire to win, everything has to be a competition, and I'm not really into that sort of way of thinking. I like to work sort of more in bodies of work, and sometimes what I'm trying to express doesn't really work for what people want.
I think if
it makes a good image.
Yeah, I think if I can enhance on that, the thing that I found is that, which I found frustrating, to be honest with you, because I was a member of another club before I joined Beckenham, is the fact that you get a judge coming along that is so enwrapped in their style of photography. They have an inability to understand or to appreciate someone's different style. The classic example would be someone who comes along who's an expert on floral photography. To come along and he's got a cross-section, a whole cross-section of the whole club, from street, landscape, abstract, floral, nature, wildlife, to try and hone their skills and their knowledge into those different genres. And that's what I found very, very difficult to come to terms with, because in my opinion, a lot of judges haven't got that ability to cross over the genres.
I think that's true, and I think people would get far more out of clubs if less time was spent, giving points to images, and more time was spent talking about photographers, photography, and also discussing it rather than just marking it.
Yeah, very true. And another point you made there, because I remember we sat next to one another when there was a presentation going on, and everyone was trying to feed questions off a member to find out how this work was being done. And the answer was, I don't know, I just flicked a few switches. And that's not what you want to hear, is it? You want to know, come on, share your skill. It doesn't matter if you share your skill.
The best photographers are happy to share their skill, because they have the skill that they have. It's not, you're not going to lose it by passing on some of your knowledge to other people.
No.
You still have your own sort of artistic feeling and way of doing things that probably other people would do something in a different way and come up with something else with the same techniques. So
exactly right.
Be frightened of sharing how they do things. Yeah,
which we're going to talk about the Arcanum later. I think is what you and I have both learned by being part of the Arcanum, where you have got this openness and sharing of comments and structure of regards to what you're doing as regards to what someone else is doing, and it is it's a great way of learning. We'll talk about the Arcanum later. I think let's go to screen share, Caroline, and then what I'll do is I'd like to talk about all these fantastic places that you visited, from Scotland down to the lower regions, hemispheres of
everywhere that I love is either cold or wet or wild.
It gives a mood to your photography, doesn't it? Let's be honest. It's we're just getting back to where I wanted to start off with. I hope you can see this. I am screen sharing. Good.
Scrunched up.
I'm going to try and spread the screen out now, because I like to make sure that we've got it on. So for the viewers, this is Caroline Fraser's photography website, and I'm just going to click on the galleries there, and you've got all these different projects which Caroline has done. Please go and have a look at this work, because it's exceptional. I don't say that because Caroline's a good friend of mine. It is exceptional work. This work has been exhibited quite a bit, especially in the southern part of the country. But I want to concentrate on just 3 of these galleries, and this one is Iceland. Now, a lot of people will go to Iceland, Caroline, and they'll be into the landscape. It's the landscaper's paradise, isn't it? But not you.
It's the waterfaller's paradise. The trip that I went on to take these pictures was a trip with Daniel Bergman, who's a lovely Icelandic guy. Yeah. And well, there was a busload of us, and we had to stop at every blinking waterfall.
Yeah.
I began to get a little bit frustrated because waterfalls are not really what turn me on. I don't really know what to do with the waterfalls.
No.
So we had a little joke about how sometimes we should be allowed to photograph other things apart from waterfalls. But no, it was a fabulous trip. And of course, the place that everyone wants to go to is Jökulsárlón, which is the glacial lagoon where all the fragments of ice break off the glacier, float around in this big lagoon, and then wash out to sea, and then get washed back up onto the beach, which is what this is an image of. It's a piece of ice that's broken off the glacier.
You see, the thing is, which I'm saying to you there, is a lot of people will take the photograph as a whole landscape with that as the central point we'll say just off center, keeping to that rule of thirds. Your style, bang, straight in on the main subject, and you've got this beautiful blur of the waves coming in on the background, and it gives us this beautiful abstract view and look to it. Can I ask you, with regards to the editing, what process and what have you done to this particular image?
Not very much to that one. I mean, these are unusual perhaps in being some of my less manipulated images. Then there's no movement of the camera, and there's not a lot done in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Basically, that was unusually for me taken with a tripod.
Oh, wow.
To slow the sea down.
Yes.
That's just movement in the sea with a big lump of ice sitting on the beach. That was about a metre high, that piece of ice.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's significant.
That's one thing that people always ask me is how big is that? And
exactly.
And what is that is the most common question for the lump of ice. But
and I can't pronounce these Icelandic names. You'll probably know them better.
I'm not even sure that I can. I say Svinafellsjökull, but it's probably not correct.
It sounded very Icelandic to me, I must be honest. So that'll do. What are we looking at here, Caroline?
Right. If you scroll down to the pictures on the bottom row.
Yeah.
The second from the right.
Okay, come down here. This one here.
Yeah, what the image that you've just asked me, what is that? Is actually a small piece.
I'm with you.
The glacier.
I'm with you.
On.
Look at the colours in here, because you immediately think of a glacier.
We were very, very lucky because it was a very grey day and the sun wasn't shining, so the colours in the ice were at their best.
Yeah.
They don't work well on a bright sunny day.
No, because you think of a glacier as pure white, or maybe a little bit of a cyan type bluey color to them, but look at this coloration here.
So that's
lovely. That's what it was.
That's one of the best things I've ever done, is to walk on that glacier and take pictures.
Droplets, is that some kind of a seaweed or just?
Yes, just a little succulent on the beach.
Yeah. Super set of images there of Iceland. Just going to go back to the gallery now, and I've got to be honest with you, my favorite set that you've got there, because this is when I think it was this image that I saw. Is this the one in the exhibition?
Yes, it was,
yeah. And when it came up, I thought this just hit me. I thought, now that's a photographer's eye. You can tell that immediately someone is looking for something different. What drew you to take this photograph?
Well, this is taken just up the road in Bromley. We've got a little National Trust area called Hawkwood. And it's a very special place for me, because when I was going through my chemo for 6 months, I went there nearly every day with my dog, and that kept me going. And I've walked there with my dog, who is no longer alive, but we would go there every day, and I would always take my camera just to see what turned up. And over the months, I have collected images of light on the pond that's in the middle of the woods. And on different days, you see different things.
It's the patterns that are created.
I've actually made these images into a little notebook and with a little poem I wrote. So this is a very special place for me, Hawkwood.
Yeah. They're just beautiful images that You see, for instance, this one, I get the impression you're looking up, and I think in actual fact, when it was judged, no doubt the judges said, yeah, I'm looking up to the sky here through the trees, and it's not, it's a reflection on the water. You got to turn yourself upside down.
Yeah.
They're just lovely images. The patterns that have been created. Upside down trees. Beautiful. Oily, they're like oily patterns are made of water. Yes, exactly. I couldn't agree more with you. Lovely, lovely images. That's beautiful. Back to the first one. That has got to be without doubt my favorite, because that image I saw at the exhibition that time when I think it got an award, but we won't go into those, will we?
I don't think it did.
You don't think? Oh, I thought you did. I thought you got a. Well, it should have done.
I don't think so.
Bloody judges. And then we come back to this is where I think we get now the idea of the way you think about photography, and obviously how photography started off with you with obviously that treatment period, and you obviously being very sort of reflective and thoughtful as regards to how things were going to turn out for you. These are very colorful, again, lots of movement.
Yep, these are all taken at Camber Sands.
At Camber Sands, yeah,
where I spend quite a lot of my weekends.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, you never know what's going to happen at Camber.
No.
Just take your camera, always take your camera when you're on the beach, and you just wait for the weather to change or something to happen. But these were late one evening. I just went up onto the dunes and did a bit of camera waving, which is very therapeutic.
Beautiful shot. Love this shot.
Yeah. Just marram grass.
And this one as well. Obviously a couple on the beach there, but you've got the beautiful sunset behind.
I've recently printed that one onto a board, and it looks really nice.
What sort of material have you used to print that on, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I've had it printed on a Fuji matte.
All right.
Paper, but I've mounted it just onto a board with a black edge so that it hasn't got a frame. It's just a print, and it looks good.
But interestingly enough, you used a matte paper as against a gloss paper.
It's not. It's got a very slight sheen to it, although it's called matte. Fuji matte is not as matte as you would think. I use a lot of matte papers, including a lot of. Mostly, I use Epsom Velvet Fine Art.
I'm with you. Yeah. So what I want to do now is I come out of the screen share, Caroline, because now I want to talk about gear, because obviously you started off, any old camera will do. When you went up and did that photo course with your son whilst you're having the treatment, what camera did you take up then?
Oh, that was when I was still, that was at that time I had just bought a digital camera, but I also was using my Canon 350 or 300. It was a film camera.
Yeah.
We did quite a lot of film processing.
So when you came to this decision of that, basically your style, which you wanted to develop, was in effectively photo manipulation.
Not really. No,
it wasn't. Oh, okay. I
wasn't consciously trying to develop a style. I suppose I enjoy. I don't know. I don't quite know how it happened that I've developed the style that I have. It's just
happened over a period of time.
Over a period of time.
Sorry, I was under the impression that when you went up to the Scotland there that time.
No. What we were doing then, I was really very much a beginner at that point, and I was taking pictures of things like leaves, twigs, and leaves, and the images were completely conventional at that stage.
Okay.
So they were straight, normal photographs with no movement manipulation.
So let's come up to date with the gear that you're using now, because everyone likes to know what everyone's using these days. What camera is your tool for at the moment?
My favorite is my Canon 5D, because it has in-camera multiple exposure in different modes, which is what I find a lot of fun.
Is that the Mark II, Mark 1, or the 3? Mark II, yeah. I remember you saying that.
When I go out, I usually just try to take just one camera with me, with one lens, and I don't like carrying a load of kit. So
no,
I usually say, well, today I'm going to use this lens or that lens,
and then go.
Just go. So I've just recently treated myself to a 85mm 1.8 lens, and I'm enjoying just going out with that.
Just going out with that.
Not too heavy. I use the 24-105 a lot when I'm traveling. Hello. You've gone, Paul.
Thanks for hanging around.
God.
This is.
I wouldn't like to say what happened there.
I've got to do something about this because last week show went through no worries at all. The previous week I had loads and loads of problems. But anyway, I'm not going to muck about with any toolbox or anything like that. Everyone knows who I am, and there we go. So if it happens again, my apologies to everyone. Still got the viewers. Just hang around. Yeah, the viewers are still there, which is the main thing. So let's get back to, so we're talking about the Canon 5D Mark II that you've got, and you've got this 85mm lens. When did the photo manipulation start for you?
Oh, I remember. It was in the Cairngorms. I went on I thought I'd go on a mixed course of wildlife and landscape photography with is it Peter Cairns up in? He's a nature photographer.
Does ring a bell.
I think that was probably about 2009.
Okay.
And we were out in the snow, and it was very dark. And I thought, what on earth can I do? I don't want to put a tripod on. I don't function very well with a tripod. It kind of, I like to be a bit more fluid. So there were these lovely coloured reeds in the snow, and I just decided to try some panning and move the camera up and down. I got some pictures that I really liked, and he really liked, and they were accepted into an exhibition in Greenwich. And that was kind of when I realised that actually at that point, when I got my first exhibition in Greenwich in 2010, I think. That was when I felt so excited that I was actually producing something that was considered worthy of an exhibition.
That's right. How many prints were shown?
4.
Nice little stuff.
Greenwich Viewfinder Gallery, and it was called Painterly Photographs.
Yeah. You've joined the Royal Photographic Society as well, and you're an associate at the moment, or have you furthered on? You're still an associate?
I'm still struggling to find
the topic for the next level. Yeah.
I keep saying I'm going off here to prepare for my F, but it hasn't happened yet.
No, exactly. It's very, very difficult, isn't it?
Images is a lot on one subject.
It's very difficult. As you know, I'm still at the licentiate stage, and to get the right panel, even to move up to associateship, is difficult enough as it is. So I know exactly how you feel going to the next stage. Say again?
I know sometimes I worry that I can't seem to get it together, but it's just going to have to wait till it's ready.
I think that's exactly how you got to work it, exactly, until you get a project in mind and you think it's going to work, and then it's not going to happen overnight. You can't just go out as we've discussed. Go out.
That's easy to achieve either. So
yeah, exactly right. Because if it's easy to achieve, then of course it belittles the actual the reward at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah. So let's talk about your editing basically. So everything that you do you use Lightroom before you go into Photoshop, or you?
Well, you might be surprised to know that I've only recently learned how to use Lightroom.
Really?
Yeah.
That does surprise me.
I finally decided that well, one of the reasons I decided to use it was because my computer was filling up too fast with, multiple images. So
yeah,
it seemed that Lightroom was a sensible way forward. And my cataloging has got a lot better since I've started using it. So I'm actually really pleased. But I had a major sort of hurdle trying to learn how to use it. I tried so many times, and it wasn't until I sort of joined the Arcanum and thought, actually, you've got to make the effort to do this. And
that's right. Yeah, you have
a whole load of tutorials.
I seem to remember talking to you about that actually when we were talking about editing, and I think you asked me what I was using. But it's funny how you take to one thing, because when I originally came across the two editing programs, Aperture and Lightroom, I had both on a trial basis, and I kept on trying Aperture, but it just didn't work for me, and eventually I found Lightroom so much easier to use.
I was just using Bridge.
Oh, well, there you go. You see, it's sometimes it's difficult to cross over.
I'm discovering that it can be a very useful time saving for
very much so. Let's talk about the Arcanum. We've mentioned it a couple of times here. We joined basically almost around about the same time.
Yeah.
I went into a street photography cohort. You went into sort of with Judy Rankin, Jackie Rankin, sorry, not Judy Rankin, Jackie Rankin, sort of more like a conceptual type photography cohort. Would that be correct?
I think I describe it as I suppose the closest to it I can think of is a sort of fine art landscape, really. I wanted to be, I had seen Jackie's work and fell in love with it when I was in New Zealand. I thought, well, if I was going to be with anybody, that's who I'd want to be with. And I was just absolutely delighted when she chose me.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful.
It's funny how it worked out, because I didn't think for 1 minute I was going to get selected to join Valerie Jardin's cohort. Although I'd said I had an interest in street photography, my main basis of my application was on general photography.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got this invitation from Valerie, I thought, well, yeah, I'll go for it. And that's when my passion of street photography really kicked in. And it really, it is. That's exactly how the Arcanum has worked for me. How have you found the Arcanum yourself?
I think it's been the most incredibly positive experience. The group that I'm with, give each other a lot of feedback, ask questions, and I think my photography has advanced, and particularly my editing skills have advanced massively. I'm much more able to be critical of what I produce, and I've become more willing to work at my images harder to make them reach a level which I wasn't reaching before, particularly for my black and white images.
Yeah.
And I've realized that actually, I'm not the sort of person who likes to do a lot to a picture. I don't like to start moving things around and cutting things out and that. But I've realized that the people who do really well with the type of photography that I enjoy do actually do quite a lot of work to their images. And so I'm probably doing more than I used to in terms of tidying things up.
Did you find it difficult for your cohort to come? This is going to sound a weird question. Did you find your cohort, did they find it difficult to come to terms with your style of work?
No, because there's a few people in my cohort who enjoy the same type of work, and I think I've been encouraged to do try quite a lot of new things that I wasn't doing. So I've been working quite a lot on my monochrome photography. Recently we had a project on high key, and I thought, I can't do this, but I went out and I tried, and actually I really enjoyed that. So it's pushing me to try things that I wouldn't have tried. And the other thing that shocked me was I'm not a big fan of HDR, and I don't enjoy looking at HDR images, but I've learned from being encouraged to try it that actually it can be really useful if it's done in a subtle way. So all of these things, they're all sort of extra tools that you're adding.
I think that's the big thing about HDR, isn't it? When HDR first hit the scene, everyone went to the extremes and pushed everything exactly, and it basically, well, dare I say, use the term, it's spoilt the opportunities that can be created using that style. And then when you see the work of, well, I can say people like Trey Ratcliffe and that have basically used HDR along with filters, along with layers, and then create an image along that, then of course it all starts molding in, and it doesn't become such a harsh image, which I think was the problem right at the start with it.
In a very subtle way without.
And I think, exactly, you have to use it with a subtle way. So, and how much of the HDR work are you actually doing in Lightroom now, or are you taking it out of Lightroom into Photoshop to do that?
No, I'm not using it very much, but I'm probably doing most of it in Nik software.
Oh, right, okay, with Nik software, plugin, yeah.
Which is something I've learned about since I joined the Arcanum. I had never used it before.
Yeah, and Nik obviously is so good with mono photography as well.
Really,
it's unbelievable, isn't it? How do you find the printing aspect, though? Do you print your own mono work, or you do?
I print everything that's up to A3 plus size. Yeah, but if it's anything larger than that, I'll get it done. Yeah,
exactly. Do you have any? How do you get on with the actual transference from computer to print? Do you?
Yeah,
I find that sometimes you can get sort of lulled into this. That it looks great on the screen, and then you come to print it, it's too dark. Can you tell us about that?
I kind of worked out that I need to do curves adjustments for bringing the colours up. Well, particularly if you're using a matte paper, you have to lighten it a lot before you print it. So
what I've come to terms with, basically, and I learned this trick from Martin Bailey, is that 9 times out of 10, everyone's got their screen up at 100% on the brightness. And the trick is to drop it down to 25–30% on your screen. And then do a test print. And if it's still a little bit on the darker side of what you're looking to create, then you make an adjustment on the exposure slider in Lightroom. And I've found that by going 0.5 or 0.7, make that adjustment necessary, depending on what the image is. If it's generally a darker image, then I go 0.7, sometimes a full stop. But that was the trick which I came with Martin Bailey, was the fact that everyone has their screens at 100%. And of course, it's a backlit image, very much like a transparency. And of course, with your print, it's a reflected image, which causes the problem. So yeah, anyone who's watching, little tip.
I think my biggest tip would be, if you're making a book, do a test page book with 1 or 2 pages in it, because that's where I find my biggest disappointments, is when you get books back and the images are very flat and dull. Yeah.
Who do you go with your book printing?
Mostly with Blurb.
With Blurb, yeah.
I've also used Artisan State, who do nice, quite sort of hard, shiny, sort of high, very, very nice color image.
Yeah, I've heard this a lot about Blurb as well, that they generally have a tendency to print on the darker side. But I think this is all, as we were just discussing, I think basically it's a question of how you actually set your computer. It's calibrated, taking it to the test print and making sure you've got the color balances and the exposure balance right for printing. It's an important thing to test before. It's like the old days in the darkroom, isn't it? You used to do test strips.
Yeah, no, I always do test strips when you have to.
Exactly. Yeah,
they're good bookmarks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then of course you've got to reference back as regards to what you're doing. Exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about your favorite photographer, Caroline.
Only one.
Well, no, I'll let you have 3. Then.
Okay, if you want me to give, I've got my I suppose my ultimate favorite is I knew my mind was going to go blank here. I've written them down. Paul Kenny.
Oh yes.
His work just blows me away.
Yeah.
Have you seen his work in a gallery?
I haven't seen it in a gallery. I have seen his work on the screen, but I haven't seen it in the gallery.
When you see it in the flesh, and I've actually got a small print hanging upstairs because I bought his book, which comes with a small print.
Right. And that's the thing about seeing it in the flesh, isn't it?
Yeah. I know his book of his Sea Works project is just the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And look at.
Yeah, I must be honest. I am familiar with the name, and I did look at some images of his. A few months ago, I stumbled across his name. Someone else was talking
about objects from the seashore.
Yeah,
mostly.
I just. Just having a quick look. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Very, very sort of abstracty type work. Yeah, it's lovely work.
And I went on a workshop with him a few months ago where he talked a lot about his work, and it was fascinating how much, although they're very abstract, there's a lot of very deep personal meaning.
Yeah.
Him within the images, and he did a project on a stone wall over 10 years where he would go back to the same wall, the same small dry stone wall for a week, you know, once a year, and make images of stones. And I've got a bit of a stone obsession myself.
Yeah. do you think that what you've just said there, it sounds as though your paths of photography are almost on the same sort of, on a parallel, really?
I think he has put a tremendous amount of thought into what he's doing, which is not something that I can claim. I tend to just go out and just go with how I'm feeling on the day. I don't often go out with a sort of strong intention to do anything in particular.
Have you ever been tempted to street photography, to do street walkabouts, or is?
Did a bit in India. That was fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I find I did a few where I was just sort of shooting from the hip and see what I get, and actually it's quite good fun to see what you get. I got some.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great images, but then I think, well, what do I do with these? Like, I don't want to hang them on the wall. They don't make me feel calm or peaceful. It's a different. I do enjoy that, but I don't. It's part of my sort of. I suppose it's just part of my holiday.
It's part of your psyche as well. I think
it's something I'm going to do a lot with. Although I have put a couple of double exposure images from India into a couple of competitions. It'll be interesting to see whether they get anywhere. And they are of people, so that would be interesting.
Well, you may get some good comments off the back of that. Let's talk about the countries there. You mentioned India, and I know you've been down to New Zealand. You go there quite often, and obviously quite often up to Scotland. What's your favourite country, though, that you really like to visit?
Scotland is where my heart lies, really, because my father was Scottish.
Yeah.
I try to go there at least once a year.
Yeah, I've only been up to the cities, Glasgow and Edinburgh. I've never. Oh, I did, in actual fact, get out to Auchterarder. Can't forget that time. That was my honeymoon, so I can't forget that one.
Oh,
and
no.
And the beautiful hills in the background there. And I was just really thinking about getting back into photography then. Yeah, it's a beautiful countryside, which keep meaning to say, yeah, let's go and let's do a break up there for a bit, but never seem to get around to it.
Oh, Iceland is very special. I recently went to the Lofoten Islands in Norway. That was gorgeous.
Yeah, they did a cruise up in actual fact into the fields, and well, it's just awe-inspiring, isn't it? Breathtaking. And every single day was rain and drizzle, but it gave it such an atmosphere. And well, I've had some fun, mono, color, enhance them, whatever, play around with them, and I can't make my mind up which is the best view of it. But yeah, the Norwegian feels that something really, really special countryside up there, really special.
Yeah.
Let's get back to with the photographers. You mentioned Paul Kenny. Who else would you rate on
well, the other person who's probably influenced my style most is Chris Friel.
I don't know of Chris Friel.
Oh, well, you missed a treat then.
I'll go and check him out as soon as I'm off.
Chris Friel is the guy who has the most. He pushes the boundaries of photography in so many ways, and he makes you want to try to do something different.
Yeah.
His photography is his multiple exposure portraits are quite extraordinary, but his landscapes are so beautiful.
I'll check him out actually afterwards, because it's not a name that I'm familiar with. I'll just put up. How do you spell the surname?
Friel.
IEL. Okay, I put double E in. No, hold on. Yes, I have seen this guy's work. Yes, I have. I'm just doing a quick. Oh, yes. I do remember it. That'll make you think. I'll have another look at that when I get back. How about one other?
Valda Bailey.
And that's another name I've never heard of.
And she's a kind of another one who's been inspired by Chris, but has now developed her own very, very effective style using multiple exposure.
Yeah, they see all these photographers you've mentioned are either a photographer like Paul Kenny that concentrates and studies on one particular given project, and then you talk about Chris Friel, and now you talk about this this later one. I've forgotten her name again.
Valda Bailey.
Alda Bailey. Valda. They're multiple exposures, which is straight down your line, isn't it?
So I think I've developed my style by aspiring to create something that in the nature of which is often how people do develop their photography, is by trying to emulate photographs that they admire.
I quite agree with you, and I think many times I've spoken to some guys and oh no, I haven't really got a favorite photographer. I don't really like to consider one over the other, and I do wonder sometimes. I think there's a fear that they may sort of think, well, I'll be accused of copying someone's type of work, and that's not the point. You know, studying these photographers, I've got a bookcase of photographers there. You know, from Michael Kenner right the way through to Sol Leiter, from total different aspects and different genres, and Henri Cartier-Bresson, Ansel Adams, all these photographers which are so important to study and get to know their work and give you ideas as regards to what you're going to do the next time you go out.
The same with looking at works of art. It's, you know, all artists and photographers are influenced by some things, I think, that they've seen. You couldn't possibly not be.
Exactly right.
Even if it's subconscious.
Who have you found has inspired you the most, Caroline? Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be a photographer. It could be a family member or your dog, maybe.
My dog.
Well, the dog was with you when you went to the lakes. That's the reason I mentioned it.
The dog got me out taking pictures.
There you go.
The dog was away. She was the one that made me go walking day after day after day, and that meant I was out in all weathers, and that's when the best photography often. Exactly right.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress.
I can't really think of one person. That's a hard one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if no one comes to mind. It's just sometimes the people have got more people to mention when you ask them who you got inspiration from family members, young children, right the way through to the first uncle that showed me a camera, that sort of thing, and they haven't got a favorite photographer. And of course, then there's the other way, they've got a favorite photographer.
There's a whole list of photographers that have inspired me. But
that have inspired you. Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. That maybe those three.
I actually know. I can't think just right now.
No, doesn't matter. No, that's just. I think that just goes to show the way certain people think. Their inspiration comes from the favorite photography that they work and say, yeah, I can do that. I'd like to get involved with that and do more and go along those lines. So let's switch back very briefly. You're in the Academy at level 15, and that obviously your goal is to complete that through to level 20.
Yeah.
And maybe join me in the lounge for a virtual cup of coffee. But what are your projects that you've got lined up for yourself? I know you can't find that project yet for your associateship. That will come, we know, because just by looking at your work. What other projects you got in mind that you'd like to do? I'm
thinking, because I spent quite a lot of time down at Camber Sands and Dungeness, I'm trying to do a project. I'm thinking about a project at Dungeness, trying to do something with multiple exposures and trying to do something different from what's already been done at Dungeness. So, and that will probably be black and white.
Yeah. More work on the black and white front.
Yeah, because I'm quite enjoying that.
Yeah.
I'm also doing a project on the rebuilding of the seawall at Camber Sands, which is a massive engineering project. It's completely straight photography. There's nothing particularly artistic about it, but it's such a major thing, and it's I'm just trying to document it from beginning to end, just because I can, and because may not be many other people that are trying to do that. And then I think that will be an interesting record in years to come.
And future exhibitions, because you do exhibit quite a bit.
I try to, because spurs me on to print things up. And when you see things printed and framed, it makes it gives you that extra sort of feeling of satisfaction, and makes it more worthwhile. I like to see things framed.
It's a goal to an end, isn't it? When you've done some work, you've printed it, you like it yourself, and then friends and colleagues look at it. It's well judged at camera clubs, and then when you put it on the wall, and other people that you probably never met before come along and say, "I really like that image," and that means a lot, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It just gets you there.
Yeah. So I'm not
Caroline, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I do apologise to you and to the viewers. We've had a few viewers actually as well, which is nice. That we lost contact there for a short while. Something around this area happens at 8 o'clock, around about 8, quarter past. I'm going to find out who it is. It better not be my new neighbour. I'll have a word. But anyway, anyway, it's been great to have you on the show. And as the end of my shows, as you probably know, I say to my viewers, if you're going out shooting this weekend, leave your camera bag at home. All the best. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Bye-bye.